As they stood on the front lawn, suitcases in hand, tears streaking my mother's face, Jake screaming at the movers, I watched from across the street in a rental car they didn't recognize. The house they stole from me was now mine. Every lock changed, every secret buried. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The cold in the Michigan air that morning wasn't the kind that stung. It sank. It found your bones, settled inside them, and made a home. Just like I had tried to. Just like they had denied me. I sat in my car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, engine off, watching the frost crawl up the windshield. Their house, the house, stood behind me like a monument to betrayal. It was the same two-story colonial where I'd carried groceries up as a teenager, shoveled snow before school, and painted the porch every summer I came back from college. I'd helped build that place with more than money. I'd built it with years, with sacrifices, with belief. But belief is a funny thing. It doesn't break loudly. It crumbles in silence, like the quiet that hung on the other end of the phone the night before. I remember every second of that call. My mother's voice wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was empty. Casual. The kind of tone someone might use to cancel a magazine subscription. "You're a grown man, Nathan. We're not running a charity." She might as well have said, "We're not your parents anymore." Then Jake chimed in with that smug, performative concern of his. Jake, who still couldn't keep a job for longer than 6 months. Jake, who once called me crying from a gas station in Ohio because his car had been repossessed. I'd wired him $1,500 that same night. No questions asked. But now, with my career on pause, I was a burden, a liability. "You should have saved better," he said, as if I hadn't funded their second chances for a decade. I walked out that night with a duffel bag, a laptop, and a stack of unopened envelopes. Bills I couldn't pay anymore. The kitchen lights glowed behind me, soft and golden through brand new windows I'd paid for. They hadn't even offered leftovers, just locked the door behind me like I was a tenant overstaying a lease. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Not because of the cold, but because something inside me had cracked open. Not grief, not sadness. Something sharper. That was the moment I stopped being a son. Stopped being a brother. Stopped being anything to them at all. And the moment I started taking everything back. There's a kind of silence you only learn in survival. Not the noble, cinematic kind. They don't show you this one in movies. It's the silence of engine hum at 2 a.m., when the parking lot's empty and your back aches from trying to sleep upright in a Honda Civic. It's the silence between texts you don't send and calls you won't make again. It's the stillness that creeps in when dignity is gone, and only calculation remains. 11 weeks. 77 nights in a car that smelled like cold sweat and hopelessness. Each morning, I peeled my body off cracked upholstery like shedding failure. I walked into the 24-hour gym with a duffel bag and a forced nod, showered in silence, then drove to the library, sat in the back corner, and pretended everything was fine. I still had clients, still delivered. I sent invoices, I smiled on Zoom, I even cracked the occasional joke. But the world only saw the surface, because that's all I gave it. I kept my suffering quiet. But I didn't stop watching. My brother Jake, he didn't know discretion if it punched him in the throat. His Instagram feed was a parade of excess. Dinners in Scottsdale, networking in Miami, champagne bottles held with 2 fingers like he was allergic to humility. His caption on one photo read, "Family over everything, I almost threw my phone." Then came the mistake. A group email from my mother about Jake's girlfriend's birthday dinner, forwarded with a chain attached by accident. Embedded inside was a scanned PDF from their mortgage broker. I opened it, heart pounding with a cocktail of curiosity and dread. They weren't just late on taxes. They were drowning. The house I'd paid off, every last cent, was in arrears. They'd quietly remortgaged it behind my back to fund God knows what, and were now trying to pull another loan using it as leverage. Their golden ticket, their safety net. My name wasn't on the deed, but my fingers still left prints all over that foundation. And suddenly I remembered something, an afterthought from years ago buried in hospital paperwork. When my dad had his surgery, I'd been listed as his medical proxy, financial power of attorney. It was still active. I closed my laptop, let the bitterness settle into my lungs like smoke. They thought I was broken, that I'd disappeared. They forgot who they taught to survive, and now they'd shown me where the cracks were. All I had to do was press. There's a particular calm that settles over you when vengeance is no longer a fantasy, but a fact. Not loud, not cinematic, just cold, mechanical, exact. Buying the house was easier than I expected. A trust fund baby's shell company out of Nevada, some wire transfers routed through legal blind spots, and the right foreclosure auction at just the right time. No eyebrows raised, no questions asked, no trace leading back to me. To them, it looked like a bank error, a glitch in the system, something bureaucratic and soulless. That's what made it beautiful. The eviction notice arrived on a Thursday. I didn't need to be there to hear the reaction. I knew it by heart. My mother's outrage would come first, dressed in disbelief, then layered with betrayal. My father would deflect, curse the government, the bank, the damn system. Jake? He'd panic. He never planned past Friday. He'd dig for someone to blame, someone to fix it, someone with a net. And of course, like always, he reached for me. Dude, I know we've had issues, but this is our home, man. Can you make some calls? I can give you crypto. Crypto. He still thought everything could be traded, even shame. I didn't answer. I watched from across the street the day the movers came. A cheap rental car and tinted windows kept me invisible. Their figures moved slowly, as if gravity had doubled. My father stood still, hands jammed in his coat pockets, face drained of the bravado he once wore like armor. He looked like a man trying to breathe through a straw. My mother didn't speak, just stared at the for sale sign planted in the yard like a headstone. Jake paced in circles, arms flailing, berating the movers for being too slow, as if volume could change outcome. None of them noticed the car. None of them noticed me. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel guilt either. What I felt was balance. For the first time in over a year, the weight on my chest had shifted. 3 days later, I closed on the house in full. No financing, no negotiations. The same house that raised me. The one I'd rebuilt with blood, time, and generosity. The first thing I did was rip out the kitchen. Every tile, every cabinet, every counter my mother had bragged about while I slept in parking lots. I painted the walls in shades of silence, installed blackout curtains, locked every window tight. When the realtor asked me if I planned to move in, I didn't blink. No, I said. I just wanted to make sure they never could. The envelope came on a Monday. No return address, just my name, written in the same shaky cursive that had once labeled my lunch bags in second grade. My mother's handwriting, a strange mix of nostalgia and rot. I knew what was inside before I opened it. I opened it anyway. The paper trembled in my hands, not from emotion, but because it reeked of the very thing I'd finally exorcised. Guilt. They were in a motel, she wrote. Some rundown chain out by the freeway. The kind where the curtains never close all the way and the water pressure mocks your need for warmth. She said they'd lost everything. Furniture, clothes, what dignity they had left. Jake had taken what little cash remained and vanished. Vegas, maybe. Or another bad investment wrapped in a smile and a promise. She didn't know. She just knew he was gone. Her words dripped with regret, not remorse. She didn't apologize, didn't acknowledge what they did. She asked for help, not forgiveness. There was no mention of the months I spent in my car, no mention of the night she told me I was a grown man as she stood in the very house I'd saved from foreclosure. No mention of Jake laughing as he scrolled through his phone while I begged to sleep in their garage. She wrote like a woman who believed her son still owed her something. When I finished reading, I folded the letter once, then again. Then I lit a match and held it to the corner. I didn't drop it in a trash can. I watched it burn in my hand, inch by inch, until the blackened edge curled against my skin. It didn't hurt. Not enough. The house stood a few miles away, untouched. Pristine. I had poured money into its walls, not to live in it, but to seal it like a tomb. It became a monument, not to home, but to memory, and to consequence. Sometimes people ask if I plan to sell. I don't answer. The truth? I don't visit. I don't drive past. I don't even think about it most days, but I sleep fine. Because some justice doesn't come with a gavel or a grand speech. It comes in an envelope. It comes in ashes. And sometimes the final knock never needs to land, because silence, in the right hands, is a louder answer than revenge ever was.